All right, well, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're really fortunate to have Dylan Weymouth, Sam Seibert and Tim Warren joining us to chat about the changing face of digital customer service and how technology like chatbots are really accelerating the win both for staff and for customers too. We're going to be recording the webinar today and we're going to provide you with a copy afterwards so that you can share it with anybody you think would be interested. And so Tim has a few questions for our panellists this morning, and if you've got some burning questions too, please drop them into the Q&A window in the Zoom chat. And now I'd like to introduce you to Tim Warren, CEO of Ambit, to kick off our session. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Caroline. It's great, and welcome everybody. We've got a couple of people questioning whether we can hear on the line. So far we've only got one person asking about that. If that's a problem, maybe just check your own audio settings. It seems to be working for everybody else. So, well, thank you everyone for joining. I know we've got quite a number attending today, and we had a bit of a wait list and people who are looking forward to the recording. So if you do need to drop off, you'll be able to jump onto that later. I'm sure you'll agree it's been a pretty unusual and interesting year. And that's only so far. We're just over, we're just about a month past halfway. So who knows what else 2020 is going to bring for us. But what we really have noticed is the trends that have been occurring through this time. I heard a strategist say that there's been 5 years of digital transformation squashed into 5 months, and I think that is absolutely true. We're seeing it across every business that we work with, and certainly in our own business. One of the results of that is that consumers have been forced online, and in a lot of cases, they've actually preferred there. It's been a positive experience for them, and even after the New Zealand lockdown restrictions have lifted, it means that retailers have they've kind of got a new need to cater to be where the customers want to be, and providing different ways of transacting and communicating. If you're not where your customers are, then they're not necessarily going to buy from you. They may buy, but they might not buy from you. And it's a very different world to 20 years ago, for instance, where they had limited choice. Those choices slowly increased, but all of a sudden we had this step change, and people want things 24/7, and you've got to be able to respond to them 24/7 as well, respond to their inquiries immediately. Otherwise, you simply risk losing out to those people who are open, who do have their digital doors open. But because of that, we've seen an increased adoption of digital technologies and moving very fast. So, for instance, like AI-powered chatbots, such as what Ambit create. It's really accelerated as a way of doing business, not only servicing customers, but finding out actually what customers want and hearing that voice of the customer. And in particular, it allows you to do it at scale and at any time. There's an interesting quote from a Harvard Business Review suggested 73% of consumers use more than one channel during their shopping journey. So they might visit in store, they might make a phone call, and increasingly they're talking to your digital assets or engaging with your digital assets during that shopping journey. I know that's true for me, and if I think back to the last couple of things, especially in the high tech area, and we'll wrap Noel Leeming into this discussion in a sec, you would absolutely expect people shopping for technology to use technology. So as well as an improved quality of service and happier customers, businesses like Noel Leeming see the rewards of digital employees through increased sales and a reduction in costs with staff. And those staff can be freed up to deal with more sophisticated inquiries, the lower volume but high value type of inquiries. So I'll introduce the panel further today. We've got Dylan Weymouth. Dylan's got more than 15 years experience in retail across the whole spectrum, business leadership and management, sales, training and leadership. He's the operations transformation lead at Noel Leeming Group, and Dylan's recently led the rollout of Nola, which is Noel Leeming's first digital employee. He's been instrumental in the application of new technologies and the provision of what has become a truly exceptional customer service across their business. So welcome, Dylan.
Morning.
Joining Dylan is Sam Seibert, sitting on screen here with me, and she's our most recent employee. It's quite exciting. If this was a month ago, Sam might have been talking as an industry expert outside of Ambit. Now she's talking as an industry expert inside of Ambit, which is really exciting. She's joined as our head of customer success team, brings a real wealth of consumer customer service experience, and she's had senior positions at places such as Vodafone, Westpac, Coca-Cola and MYOB. So thank you both. Let's get into it. Just a reminder that if you do have questions throughout the session, do drop them in the chat window there. I will drop them in as I can. We won't be able to get to all questions necessarily, but hopefully our pre-prepared ones should cover it. Okay, so Dylan, coming to you first. Obviously in the last few months, there's been some substantial changes. What are the key challenges that the team have addressed, and how have you addressed that consumer buying behaviour?
Yeah, good question, Tim, and morning everybody. I think like the rest of New Zealand, when we went into COVID and we had to close all of our stores, that was, I guess, the start of the journey where the business needed to transform and, as you said earlier, Tim, be where the customers are. We were closed with no online fulfillment for a week, and then we reopened a small number of fulfillment stores, and so our energies went to how do we deliver for New Zealand customers in that way, with a limited amount of stores and a limited amount of team members working in those stores. And then over the period of the stages of the lockdown, it kind of transitioned into more stores operating, but with a limited way. We did click and collect only, you couldn't shop in store. And then we had a drastic tenfold increase of communications to our call centre. Obviously, web traffic to our website and on our app went through the roof. So the journey we really went on was how do we direct our efforts and energies, technologies with our partners such as yourselves, into different ways we could support New Zealand in the way that they wanted to shop for essential items, and then as we went through for the regular items that customers wanted to buy. And yeah, I'm sure we'll talk more about some of those technologies, but yeah, as you say, we had to move online, in store, in different ways.
Right. So one of the key things that you're mentioning there is the ability to change pretty quickly. Sam, turning to you, in large organisations, it's often difficult to move quickly when you're responding to changing market conditions. So what do teams do to be more adaptive to change?
Sure. So morning everybody. Thanks, Tim. In large organisations, what the main challenges is often around scale, and also in some of the governance requirements that go with that. And so often what large organisations are doing is that they're really looking to focus on culture to help with change. And that's all about building champions. And those champions are really there to help the organisation to see what the opportunity is, and to change what people are striving for, to help them see success essentially, and to reduce resistance on the change journey. You know, a while ago that a lot of the conversation around automation was about automation taking away jobs. And these days we know what bots can do, and also what they can't do. And there's a lot more acknowledgement now that bots aren't there to replace humans. They're actually there to augment people and to help them out in the types of challenges that Dylan was just talking about.
Okay, you just mentioned champions there. Do you want to dig into the job of a champion?
Sure. So what I mean by champion is somebody that can see and communicate the value of the change, and help others to see that. They're also there really to spot opportunities and to find ways that the technology or the project that's being employed can actually be used to help the organisation. So it's really a role about creating value, and also helping with a frictionless process.
All right, interesting. So Dylan, you've very much been our champion at Noel Leeming. I guess one of those things, reducing friction, is identifying the kind of roadblocks that might come up. What are those roadblocks that you did face once you'd made a decision to move forward with this digital solution when you're servicing your customers?
Yeah, I think Sam kind of touched on it a second ago around getting socializing it internally, and then getting the different stakeholders from around the business to provide the necessary support to get things across the line. So I guess one of the advantages that we've had with Noel Leeming is that we have our own internal development team that work very closely with our business operations team. So for internal development, we can pivot very fast. one of the roadblocks when you're in a larger organisation and you've got different departments looking after different technology stacks and have different skill sets and different departments, not so much cross-functional, is that you've got to get everyone aligned, and you've got to pull, even if it's little bits of resource, you've got to pull resource and make sure that you're talking to the benefits enough that the business prioritises the work. So I think that's probably not uncommon, but yeah, we're certainly in a space where we've been able to get that alignment and get on with getting some of these things implemented. And you have to be like that when you're facing the challenges of the pandemic.
Yeah, it's interesting. What we noticed with our customers was that during the time of extraordinary, unprecedented challenge of basically businesses in many ways simply being turned off, people responded in a couple of different ways. Some people took the approach that you did, Dylan, with Noel Leeming, which is we just need to do things faster and we need to change the rules and be very adaptable. And other businesses really struggle to make decisions. So that's the internal side. How about customers, Dylan? How did customers initially react to bringing Nola into the store in the digital human version?
Yeah, originally we started with Nola, as you said, Tim, in the Newmarket store. We ventured into that space as part of our innovation build in that centre. So if you've been there, you know that the mall is world class, and we wanted a world class store to suit. We decided to put a digital human at the front to give that next level of experience. And to sort of test and gauge how customers would respond to that type of technology, but to also show and reinforce that Noel Leeming is innovative, and we sort of practice what we preach in the sense that we sell high-tech modern technology, and we wanted to show that in another way. The customer response in the store was quite incredible. We had I think upwards of 1,000 interactions a day in the early days. I think Nola had 2,500 selfies by the time we got to Christmas. So that's just a really good sign. But the thing that I'm really proud of that we did do in Newmarket is we actually added store labour in as store greeters. So whilst we put a digital greeter in Newmarket, we also put our team members at the front of the store, which we haven't done in other Noel Leeming locations. And the reason why we did that is, again, to provide another level of experience and service in the store, but also to assist customers to have an experience with Nola. You'd imagine the younger generation wandered up to this new kiosk format, hit the button where it says push to talk and engage in the conversation. But there's generations of the public that find that a little bit more confronting, and maybe took 3 or 4 goes to actually go back and hit the button. So we had team members on hand to help facilitate that experience, and that was very much what we were trying to create there as an experience for customers.
Right, so taps into that,
like helping you find products and things like that.
Thanks, Dylan. It taps into that augmentation we're talking about, where there's technology, but there's also people, and you actually get a combination that's people times technology. It's not technology instead of people. So that's very positive. Thanks, Dylan. Sam, coming back to you, in your experience, where have real benefits come from integration of the technology into the customer services teams come from? What are the real benefits that's provided?
Sure. So in customer service teams these days, it's quite a complex world, and there's an extraordinary number of applications and amount of knowledge that's required to handle the broad spectrum of customers that walk in the door and expect to be helped in whatever their question is or their need is. And so really where technology and integration of technology comes in is to help with a reduction in manual complexity. And anywhere that that happens, what it's doing is it's making the process faster, it's making the process more accurate for customers. It's also making the job less stressful for people, and at the same time often less costly for businesses. An example of that is Mercy Radiology. They are using a chatbot at the moment to book appointments outside of business hours and to upload referral forms. And what that means is that they're able to be there for their customers, but also for their team, because what they've managed to do is change one of the interaction points so that it's easier for their people to get to the information that they need to actually truly help the customer.
Okay, very good. So it's that connecting into possibly an existing system where you might have being able to track an order, and someone can there's those high volume questions where people saying, where is my flat screen TV? And Dylan, I'd imagine you're looking to do some investigation into how we could connect into your order system. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with the chatbot solution, you've got the immediate solve you provide is quick answers to questions, but then you really want to build it out to a point where you can solve the problems or actually give the answers that customers really want. So we're on a trajectory, or we've got a plan to integrate to the, as you just said, order status lookup. Do we have stock on hand, and where is their stock? And anything along those lines around, what we do, some customer specific pricing, if you want to know what your price is, those sorts of things, are just opportunities where, rather than just providing generic responses, you can actually solve it for the customer and give them that ultimate access to your information.
Yeah, right. So some of the numbers we've got suggest that up to 30% of customer support costs can be diverted, or up to 30% of customer support volumes rather can be diverted into these digital channels, especially through conversational. Dylan, do you have a sense of the kind of deflection that you're managing with Nola Online?
Yeah, I think that statistic is probably about accurate, but I think it is probably a sliding scale, right? So when we first went live with Nola on the website, it was probably maybe 5% of conversations were getting diverted through Nola bot. But then, because we can quickly see what people are asking, and we've also got statistics from the call center and other mediums, you can pivot the answers within Nola, on a daily basis. So I think that as we trained the responses, we actually got incrementally better. And then, as I said, when we get things like order status in there, then you'll just take that whole bucket and move it into that channel that doesn't require a phone call to our store or a phone call to the call center. So I think you would start at a certain point and get immediate realization, and then as you train and build the bot out, you'll see more value. Just as an example, we had a review last week where the call center team told us that they'd seen an increase in queries regarding repairs. So we went back and looked at what we'd put into Nola around repairs, and in the next couple of weeks, or actually in the next few days, we're looking to just optimize those answers a bit more to give more information through that medium. And then we've added to the roadmap a repair lookup. So if you want to know the status of your repair, chuck your repair number in, and Nola will give you back, okay, here's where it's at, this is the latest update. So again, that would, if that took, say, 5% of the call center call volume and diverted it through a self-service mechanism, then again, we can focus on the higher value calls that are coming through and give customers a really easy time to go or time to answer.
That's interesting. So you're using the customer voice to steadily improve the return on investment in that area. Okay.
Absolutely.
So stepping back from that, Sam, what are the broader trends that you're seeing in relation to digital customer service?
So one of the biggest trends is one that Dylan's actually already mentioned, which is just as a result of COVID and the step change in businesses' ability to adapt, really. What people are looking for has changed as well. Now what the industry is looking for is the ability to adapt flexibly and to scale, but also to drop capacity at will, in response to what's happening in the market and also to what their customers are needing. And really, the other trend is a little bit longer, and that is that over the last little while, customers have become more demanding of convenience and choice in the channels that they use. And also they're wanting to communicate on their terms. And what that means is, as Dylan said, some older demographics are still looking to have face-to-face interactions. But more and more what we're seeing is digital natives who are looking to find information more easily and in a more natural way. And many of those users or customers are becoming super comfortable engaging with companies through online chat and chatbots, for example. And those types of technologies are becoming more common as a result.
Do you think people are actually seeking more than just a transaction, but they might not use the language, but they actually want an engaging experience as opposed to just get the thing?
I think so, but I think it's what it means to people. So I think what's changed is that we no longer see what I'd call hygiene factors as things that are worth doing, that are valuable. So what we actually want to do is get through the hygiene factors as fast as possible so that we can live our lives. And so actually it's all about speed and convenience, and you know, for a lot of people, doing things at midnight rather than waiting for a store to open. I know that's me. I know that it's many people I know, but I also know that there are a large number of people, for example, my mother and sister, who still value that human-to-human interaction and want to do things in a way that would frustrate me.
It's interesting. So there's almost two conflicting things there. So on one hand, we've got the large amount of data that we can generate from digital employees, access to all customer records, access to all stock, all the trade. But then you've got people who do want an individualised and a personal experience as well. So does that mean you need to treat different customers in different ways and understand every order, every interaction they've had with the store?
I think it's really important. I think most businesses are already looking at who their customers are. And so it's about knowing who your customers are and actually having solutions and channels that meet their needs. And so yes, I think that you do need to be able to help customers in a way that they expect. And what I think it also means is that the transitions are really important. So even if you have a certain default as the way that you operate your business, actually if you value a certain customer type, you've also got to make sure that you have the handovers in place to help them as they want to change and go outside your norm.
Right. Well, digging into that kind of theme, Dylan, so interesting stat I've got here from Juniper Research that retail's sales from chatbot-based interactions are skyrocketing and expected to reach over 100 billion by 2023, up from just 7 billion last year. So it's a huge annual growth rate. You're talking 100% growth rate per annum. So Nola's been servicing customers on the Noel Leeming website. What do you see it doing for sales, and how do you deal with that? What effect are you seeing from sales?
Yeah, I think as Sam was saying, you know, there's no one size fits all. So you provide a new channel to give answers, like what we've done with Nola on the website. But then, you know, you can only answer so many questions until the customers in that channel need a bit more help. So the logical use case, which we've adopted, is let's put one of our passionate experts or one of our team members in behind Nola and available to help should customers get stuck, if you will, in that channel. So we direct customers to call us or call the store or email us, but we also give the option to live chat, and that will go in the same platform as the chat with Nola to one of our team, and then the team will then either answer the question. The team have got access to, you know, all of the information in our systems, and they can process sales. And you know, since we've launched that, I think we've really upped the ante in terms of like the service we can provide through that channel, and through Nola as the bot. As far as sales goes, I mean, it's just a no-brainer for us. We've opened up a new sales channel. There's arguments to say, well, the customer might have bought on the website had they not had the chat, but there's equal arguments to say, well, actually they might not have, and you know, why would you want them to go it alone anyway if they can get to one of our team members through the bot experience? So, like, we're committing around about one person at the moment full time to supporting and behind the bot. We're looking to scale that because we're already seeing, you know, very good ROI on both the platform and the investment of the people, and of course the customer response from those interactions is very good as well. You know, they don't expect to end up with that level of service through that channel. So when you do provide it, it's actually a nice surprise, and we find it great as well to actually leverage other parts of our business, such as we do an in-home consultation service, so which is free. So some customers discover that service by chatting through Nola and ending up with one of our remote agents, and then within a couple of days from that interaction, one of our team is at their home, providing a face-to-face walkthrough of technology and doing a quote there live, and those are some of the real, you know, if you can get to that point with your customer, that's a great place to be in, and that's part of our strategy, is to look into that kind of area. So this channel is helping us to achieve that as well. So absolutely, it's just a real no-brainer execution.
That's interesting. There's some numbers from Salesforce that indicate that when shoppers use AI-enabled technology around product recommendations, their order value increases by 14%. And I'd assume that when one of your salespeople can jump into a conversation, they've seen what the customer is doing, they can actually support them better to get an overall better experience, which means probably a higher order value to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the sales we're getting through that channel are big ticket. We're not sort of, the majority of them are larger order value sales as opposed to smaller ones. If it's a smaller purchase, customers are, you know, they're more happy to go it alone, and they can go through the website and find a lot of information. But where you need to, you know, think about your purchase a bit more, and if you're going to be shelling out for, you know, either a high-end new iPhone or a TV package of some sort, you know, you want to get that support. And we're actually finding almost twice the amount of services being sold as what we sell in stores. So services being things like installation and delivery, and we do setup and learning. Those sorts of services are actually getting taken up more through the channel than in other channels, which is great.
Very interesting. Okay, Sam, coming back to you. Thinking of businesses that are using digital employees to service their customers in a whole variety of ways, what are the biggest advantages? So what are the best use cases to apply this kind of technology?
Sure. So where people say that the sort of technology really helps them is that they're really shining in a way to give people time to do meaningful work, and to provide work-life balance as customers' expectations grow. And what I mean by that is it's pretty well known now that bots can help to remove workload by smoothing peaks in volume, and also handling high transaction areas. And they also are pretty good at working really unsociable hours that people don't generally want to work, but that customers still want to be able to get service in. And they're a bit friendlier to get simple data than big forms. And so in all of those ways, customers are starting to demand that sort of service from the organisations. And so really when I speak to organisations, what they're saying is that they want to help their customers 24/7, and to do that without blowing operational costs. They're also saying that they're looking to get that scale and flexibility that we talked about before. And so, for example, just last month, Victor's bot scaled to handle 500 chats where it would previously have handled one, and that was due to some outages. And really the bot managed to scale instantaneously. That's just not something you can do with a person. And if you do it, it takes time to train. So with the bot, what happens is that you train the bot once, and it can be one person or it can be 500. And so they're looking for that. The other thing that people tell me they're looking for is to speed up transition points. And so the types of transition points that they might be wanting to speed up is just helping with simple information, but also to help get customers through to the right person, and to ask some questions that help with that, so that they can get to a right point of contact first time, and that's what Tower's doing. Other people say that that protection of meaningful work is quite important, and it's not just about 24/7. Part of what it is that traditionally in contact centres, for example, Mondays are a really big day, and that's as you catch up with the work that's come in the weekend when you've had fewer people on to protect work-life balance. And what the bot does is actually just disappears that work, and so Mondays become another day just like any other.
Oh, that's a really interesting one, because you can avoid these peaks and troughs in a couple of ways, because you've got someone always on, but then you've got, when people are there, they're not dealing with that, oh geez, that Monday feeling of catching up because they've already been able to book their appointment, etc.
That's right.
Okay, no, that's very good. Okay, Dylan, coming to you, I've got a bit of a compound question. You're one of the few people in the country who's not only overseen creation of an in-store digital human, but also the on-web experience. How long did each of those take, those two separate processes, and what advice would you give other businesses thinking about hiring digital employees for their team?
Yeah, so good question, and it's been an interesting journey for both projects. So the digital human in store, that project probably took less than 6 months from start to end, and it probably took a little bit longer because the store opening was delayed, so we had a bit more time to work on it. The complexity of that project was that, you know, you've got physical design of the kiosk itself, you've got the digital human avatar, which is done with the Unique software, the back end provided by Ambit and integration, which we worked with Jade, as well as, you know, voice artists, recording, and all of the pieces to make that all come together, UI design. So, you know, it's a big project with a lot of key dependencies and a pretty epic roadmap to get to go live. As far as the journey for the online platform, so fortunately we already had some experience working with Ambit. So for us to get from you know, in the middle of the crisis, realizing that we've actually got some software or a software partner we could repurpose the tech, because Nola lost her job in the store, so while we were closed, so we had to kind of find her something to do. And that execution actually was sort of spun up and live within a matter of weeks. I think it was about 2 to 3 weeks that we actually got the bot live online, and it would have been sooner if we could have integrated it onto the site quicker. But we're working on a pretty big project internally, so we had to arm wrestle over some resources there to get that prioritized. But yeah, we were, like I said kind of earlier in the chat, we were live online within about 3 weeks from the initial conversation, and we were iterating rapidly. We pretty much did updates every day. Remember sort of reading through the chats and getting a feel for what how Nola was doing. The nice part about it was we copied over kind of all of Nola's personality from the store execution, so we sort of brought all that across. So you can ask her all sorts of other stuff, and she'll have some quirky answers. And yeah, it was just a really good sort of team effort in the middle of sort of the chaos of what was the COVID level 4, and you know, it's been the same sort of all the way through since we've come out of the lockdown. We're still iterating, and we're still looking for now a development pipeline, which includes integration work as well. So yeah, different experiences, but both, when it's one of those things where you get the right partners around the table and prioritize it, get some good subject matter experts involved, and you can get some good outputs.
Yeah, great. Okay, so tell us what's next for Nola. What are the things as we look forward into the next 12 months that we might be able to expect either in store or on web?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, like I said, there's making Nola smarter. That's one of the sort of development streams of work, is how do we give her access to more of our systems, and there's many sort of facets to that. We want to scale the consultation service in behind Nola. So, you know, we're sort of currently running it like a 9 to 5 and sort of dabbling with those fringe hours, but we can see that customers shop sort of 24/7, albeit not loads, but there's still people shopping at 1 and 2 in the morning. So, you know, is there potential to service them there? We want to try and create more experiences with the digital human, whether that's in our app or in more locations. So the digital human experience is only in Newmarket at the moment, so we want to explore where we can reuse that technology. But certainly, really, it's just about scaling and giving more solutions to Nola that she can surface. It's easy to add, you know, Q&A, but a bit more complicated to add in some integrations, but not impossible. So that's really the roadmap, is kind of ultimately just trying to make it easy for customers to engage with that platform and have an experience in different ways as well, in as many ways as we can.
Oh, very good. Thanks very much. Coming back to you, Sam, I'm curious to how you think, you know, we've heard that specific example of what Nola's going to be doing over the next 12 to 18 months, etc. In general, what do you think of the landscape changing customer service in the coming months and years?
Sure. It's a really good question. So Dylan's already mentioned that customers, when dealing with Nola, have been surprised and delighted, and that's a combination of the technology and the people paired to actually deliver great customer experiences. As time passes, that will become more and more normal. And what
as people's expectation, right? It's going to be a good,
100%.
Right.
As people's expectations rise, and what I'm hearing in the industry is that we're expecting customers to become more demanding as they experience the convenience and the faster responses and the better service that this type of pairing delivers. And we've already seen a shift. You know, I spoke earlier about my preferences versus my mother and my sister. That's really going to become more common. And I think that what's going to become more common is that people are going to expect easy, hands-off and conversational service to be there on demand for them. And they're going to be quite happy to self-service. They're already doing that. This isn't a new trend, it's actually a trend that's accelerating. And the way that we already see it is, you know, for example, if I look back 10 years, we're at the start of people shopping online. We're at the start of people expecting to be able to track and trace their New Zealand Post parcels, look up their balances on their accounts. Today, that's the minimum. And so that's really where we're heading. And what that says to me as a customer service professional is that to deliver good service in the future, we're going to need the help of technology. We're absolutely going to have ways to scale and to smooth demand and to deliver quality of customer experience. That's what it's going to come down to. So I think that trend is really taking off.
Okay, that's great. So one of the trends we've seen is that when people put in something which is capable of live chat, but also you can learn from that through a machine learning algorithm into a conversational platform, is that you can handle things like basic tech and product support questions. And then over time you can see, look, that's what people are talking about. And then you can move to automate that and create a conversation around it. And one of the key things that I've heard from both of you is around actually listening to the customers and letting them tell you the direction they want to go. I've often been asked, you know, do you start big bang with something like this and try and solve anything and everything, or do you start with something small and adapt fast? And I don't think there's any question, certainly from the panel, that starting small and learning is that adaptable way to go. The other thing I think we've learned over the last number of months is that the things come out of left field that you could never possibly have forecast. You're not going to have a way to manage a pandemic pre-programmed into any of your systems 5-6 months ago. You're not. So again, adaptability is really critical. So that implementing technologies quickly brings that immediate benefit and helps your bottom line and your teams. I've got a little follow-up question there for you, Dylan. When you introduce a couple of digital team members into your wider team, how do people respond to that? How do the wider team think of having digital workers as part of their team?
Yeah, I mean, the response internally has been great. You know, one of our values in Noel Leeming is innovation, and I think when our team see us living that through these types of executions, it reinforces, you know, the place that they work in and the values that we talk about. So, you know, I think when we first went into Newmarket, there was a moment of apprehension at the very start. But then when we explained to the team the plan for the new roster or the way we were going to staff the store, and they saw that we were actually increasing the level of service, that sort of quickly, you know, dissipated, and the guys were like, wow, she's actually going to be part of the team to complement the experience as opposed to taking one of our roles. And I guess from the digital angle online, the call center we're absolutely wrapped, you know, to have a sort of front line of defense for, you know, the Q&As that are actually really simple ones to answer. I mean, we would potentially have customers calling just to get a phone number for a local store, you know, whereas now you can just sort of 3 clicks in a small conversation with Nola and she'll pop up the number straight on your phone. So things like that are absolutely a win. And I'll just touch on, you know, what we're just talking about prior to the question, Tim, around like iterating fast. I remember when we first started planning the online bot, I copy pasted kind of like our whole FAQ off of our website, which was like, I don't know, there must have been like 200 questions that I extracted off the website. And I spoke to, you know, one of your team members and said, let's get all of these into Nola. And she sort of said, no, like, let's just get like the top 10, let's get them in there. And I'll never forget the fact that like I wanted to go gung-ho and put them all in there, but actually nobody asked half of those questions. So we left them all in the FAQ, and if people did ask questions on certain topics, we added them in. But it was just a case of going, well, that might have taken us 2 more weeks to load all those conversations in and train them, but it would have been absolutely no value if we had, because actually that was not what people were asking. And you know, and the beauty of the analytics, and when you actually look at the live chats, you can see exactly what people are asking and just provide those answers. You don't have to go to the ends of the earth to solve everything.
Yeah, very good. Okay, no, that's interesting. Again, it's the idea of that if we listen to those customer needs and respond to them quickly, the first person who asks a question might not necessarily get the answer, but everyone following that will. And as opposed to trying to guess what those questions are up front, because there's a lot of questions out there in the universe. I've got another one for you both, actually, which is, you know, we know where we are in New Zealand. There's been relatively good penetration of digital employees across a range of industries. Dylan, where do you see the trends globally for retail in terms of the way people want to interact?
Yeah, I mean, I was listening to Sam in the last question and answer and thinking, you know, if a company doesn't have a decent sort of chat experience now, you sort of are behind the mark, really. Like, I expect to be able to self-serve some things on websites and be able to get information quite quickly as a consumer. I guess my expectations might be different to the market, but I think that we're certainly getting quickly towards that as an absolute must-have for an online presence. So I think that trend is certainly playing out globally in terms of the digital sort of human interaction and how does AI interact with consumers. I think that more and more companies are venturing into the space. I think we're at the start of that acceleration. Not so much, you know, we're not mature there yet. I think that we're still working out, like, do people want to interact that way and have a voice conversation with a digital human assistant? And in a more complex way. So I think that's interesting. You know, Q&A is one thing. You can ask Siri and Alexa and those for Q&A, but when you want to sort of maybe a guided sales process, that's an interesting topic that is certainly one that will be emerging overseas. And you've seen, you know, chatbots show up on little robots that can escort you to products and things like that. It's that fine line between that blurred line actually between what's an experience and innovative and interesting versus practical and useful for customers. You'll never, I don't think, well, never say never, we will get there eventually, but you know, the human interaction is still going to have its place where you just need someone's opinion or experience to help you with your decision. And so it's that blend of both, right? And that's, I think, where globally, if businesses can get that right, where you can seamlessly move from digital to self-service into where you need a human interaction, I think that's where the winners are going to be, is when you can do that really well.
Thanks very much. Okay, Sam, anything you can see that we can learn from what's happening globally?
Oh, look, I think New Zealand is a fairly innovative culture. And so we don't have the scale sometimes that is available globally, but we do tend to have much more of a desire to try new things and to experiment. But having said that, you know, these trends that we're talking about, they are global. You know, just a few years ago, I was really surprised when I read somewhere that broadband connectivity is now considered a basic human right, okay, like water and housing. And actually that's about how people are interacting with their customers and what's available, and that's global. And that trend has gone further. Globally, there are industries that are leading the way in technology. So for example, I know digital humans have been around in banking and transportation for quite a long time now globally. But I think that New Zealand holds its own, and often, you know, people are looking at us as the way that the future's going, and that's as much about how we are as people and what we like to do. And, you know, Dylan's a great example of that, where you're actually championing the use of this sort of technology to help the business to actually achieve the business's goals.
No, thanks very much for that. Okay, I'll just look to wrap up now. There's a couple of questions. I'll just come to one of those. There's a question around how do we get started, or how does a company get started? The first thing is to engage with a company like ourselves, or someone who's done it before, someone like a Noel Leeming, etc., and work out what's been successful for them and really listen. With everyone who's been successful, we hear common themes. So one of those is that automation of customer service can be realized really quickly. So start small and then build, and that's the theme that we've heard today. Teams have actually accepted this well. Dylan, I think you said that your team was wrapped once they understood it. So communication is really important. Time to value, which is, so when do you start delivering return on investment, and then your ultimate return on investment, you need to understand. It's a good idea to understand them early in the process, but also know, as you pointed out, Dylan, if you listen to your customers, you can continue to improve your return on investment over time. Be where your customers are. You were saying it's basic human right to have broadband. Well, customers now expect it as pretty basic, and as you also mentioned, Dylan, they want a chat experience, and the younger the cohort, the more they expect it. And ultimately, a well-designed, smart digital employee, it's going to save time and it's going to make you money. So, with a good business case, the return on investment is going to be relatively quick, which should make an easy discussion within your leadership team. So, thanks very much for your insights today, and thanks to everyone who joined the panel. I'm going to hand back over to Caroline.
Thanks, Tim. Yeah, really great discussion. And as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be sending you a copy of this recording so that you can share it with others in your business. And, you know, please reach out to us or Dylan if you'd like any further information. So thanks again, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.